Hi everyone, welcome back to Drawing with Steffi. Today I am going to be doing a demo on how to flat artwork. As always, my painting program or drawing program is Paint Tool Sci. Just to note, Sci has updated. Once again, you can get Sci 2 if you have Sci 1. Check out the website and you'll get a brand new Sci. It's got lots of nifty updates on it. It's still in beta, so it's looking a little funny, so but check it out, it's great. Also to note, I am using a Wacom Intuos Pro or Intuos 5. And if you'd like to support my art, you can check out my Redbubble shop. I'll put a link down in the description. But let's get started. Alright, so this is a piece I've been inking over the last week, and I'm going to start coloring it. And I have two layers here. I have the background on its own layer, and then I have the figure on its own layer. So we're going to start with the figure. And you can do this a couple ways. A lot of people like using lasso tools, or you can use the magic wand. The only problem with magic wand is if you don't connect all your lines like I have a tendency to do, it won't always work. So what you can do, you want to work on the layer that has the lines first. And this should work also on Photoshop. Most digital art programs work about the same way when it comes to this. The nifty thing about Sci is it does have the select brush, and you can close up some of those holes with that. Let's see if that'll do it enough. I don't think I have any other major holes in the artwork. Kind of glance around at it. Oh, I think there's one here. Nope, that's closed up too. Let's put a line here to close that up. Sometimes going off the page doesn't count for Sci. Let's put a line down here too, just in case. Alright. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the back, the outside, and then I'll invert it. Hey, look, it almost worked completely. That's not too bad, all things considered. So what I'm going to do is unselect the areas we don't want, which is going to be the inside of her tail here. So I'm going to take the deselect brush, and I'm just going to erase the selected areas that I don't want, rather than just trying to hunt down the holes. Sometimes it's easier just to do it this way. Or you could be, better at your line art and make sure not to leave any holes. That's time consuming though when I'm lazy. So I'm just going to paint this out. But also I wanted to mention there's a new option here on YouTube. It's called the Community tab. Check it out. I've been posting artwork there and other information about what's going on. It's a good place for you to leave comments, or just if you want to chat with me some. I'm always happy to answer questions about anything you've got. Questions about Photoshop or Sci, just drawing in general. Neaten this up a little bit. Alright, let's check the top here. That's looking good. Right now we're going to fix her hand. So we don't want that part. Doing it this way tends to make it a lot easier and faster. When you're doing flats, you don't want to spend a whole lot of time, just painting it all by hand. I used to do it that way, but it's better to try to use the tools in a more time efficient manner, so you can spend more time actually rendering. I have to neaten that up a little bit. Now I'm not going to flat everything in this video because that'll just take too long, and you'll get the idea quickly enough. Just want to make sure you get close to the edges. I will also say if you use thicker lines, it sometimes makes it a little bit easier to do this too. But there's no wrong way. Alright, so in this area here, we also want to have it selected. Whoops, got a hole there. So we're going to have to probably paint that on our own, because I've got another hole somewhere. So what you can also do is just put little lines on the outside of the area you want to capture, and then use the wand on it. The only downside about that is sometimes it makes little extra, kind of outside lines, so you have to be real careful that it doesn't create any little lines on the inside and then you have a break. But it looks like we got it this time. So let me neaten it up again so we don't select. Whoops, ended up erasing. Alright, there we go. There we go. I'm going to change the pressure on my brush so I'm not getting quite so much. And get the inside of the ring. And that little edge there. I want to keep it as neat as possible so you have less to clean up when you use the fill tool. See, I've got a little pixel there that needs to be filled in. Got 2 pixels that need to be filled in. Alright, let's pull back to make sure we have most everything that we want. Let's add that in there. Alright, now what I'm going to do, whoops, we're going to subtract that spot there too. There we go. And add that in there too. That's a little messy. Alright, now we're going to go up here to selection and hit inverse. So now we've captured most of the figure. So we're going to come down here and add that back in. And I'm going to neaten this up down here. We've got it a few spots that we don't need again. I'm going to add that in and then take that part out. Tighten that up again because we're missing a couple pixels. Same with over here. Oops. There we go. Check the other side. Make sure everything is selected that we want it to be. It's the other reason I like size. It's a little bit easier to select things than it is in Photoshop, because you get this nice blue mask. Though technically you could probably do this in Photoshop with just the fill tool. Do some painting and then use the painting as the selection. It's just, lots of ways to do the same thing. I'm going to have to deselect that spot on the chain. You want to look for the areas, if you're using Psy, where it's kind of purple, that lets you know that it's not completely selected. You want it to be as perfect as you can get it, because everything you fix here is stuff you won't have to fix later when you're actually doing the painting part. Alright, let's zoom out to make sure we got everything. Okay, now this is a really important part. You want to make sure you go to a new layer and put it on the bottom so your line layers are on top. And then you go to the fill bucket, and you can do like gray or something, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes I use whatever color I'm going to have the most of. She's a white wolf, so we're going to go with kind of a gray. And then fill that in, and then deselect. And then go back through all the edges to make sure everything is where it needs to be. And we can use the paintbrush to fill in any areas that we didn't quite get before. There are going to be a few pixels you probably have to fix. But anything that's not colored in will cause problems later on, so you want to make sure everything is filled in as possible, because we're going to be using the clipping option to do our flatting, because it just makes it a little bit easier. Looks good. Let's get rid of some of this here. It's going outside the lines a little. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright, so that's step one. Step two. Alright, depending upon what program you're using, you're going to want to make another layer, and that's going to go on top of the gray layer. And in Psy, what you want to do is click the little option here that says Clipping Group. Now what that's going to do is anything that's painted on this layer will only show up on the gray area. So I can take my brush and we'll get a big red mark. And if I try to paint outside of the gray, it won't show up. So that just makes it a lot easier than trying to keep inside the lines on your own. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is, again, what you can do is either free paint, or you can use the brush, the magic wand again to get areas. But again, I probably wasn't as neat as I could have been to make sure everything is closed off. So let's see if I can get that. Nope. I was messy, so I'm just going to have to do this by selecting things myself. So we're going to do the select tool, and I'm just going to capture everything with the tool. So you could use the lasso in Photoshop to do this too. It's just not quite as neat. And I'm going to have to come back in and, oops, I'm going the wrong way. Come in and neaten this up after I'm done to make sure I get everything where I want it to be. So I'm going to select the hair first. And you don't have to, but in the beginning it's probably easiest to make multiple layers if your computer can handle it for each zone that you want to be a different color. So for me, I want the hair to be on its own layer. So I'm going to select all of the hair area. And you want to have things on different layers just so it's easier to paint. You can go over the edges and you don't end up having to erase things quite as much. You can use bigger brushes. There's just lots of reasons. It makes it more convenient, easier to handle and deal with. And after I'm done doing just the edges, I'll come back in with the magic wand so I don't have to end up painting everything by hand. Make things go a little faster. Whoops. Have wiggly hand today. That's okay, I can erase that. And if you're curious about this image, it is my fundraiser image. I am trying to save up to get a new drawing tablet to make it a little bit easier and faster. Hopefully it'll let me make more videos and more artwork for y'all. If you'd like to learn more about that, I'll leave a link in the description on how you can contribute to the fund. Everybody who donates will get a copy of this image when I finish coloring it. And we'll get the rest of the hair here. Being messy again. See, this is where I didn't close up all my lines really well. I should put a line there. Shame on me. Alrighty. Almost done. Woohoo! And as always, if you guys have suggestions for other video topics, please let me know in a comment, or you can email me at cybercatgraphics@yahoo.com, or message me on Twitter, or on DeviantArt, or Furfinity. Alright, let's see if I got most of that. Oh, we've got some hair down here we want to add. Alright, now we're going to use the brush here. Let's see, I'm going to make color difference a little less pronounced so it doesn't get in the way of all the lines. There we go. I'm going to move off of the line layer so it catches the entire area and doesn't leave little holes. There we go. It's a little messy, but that's okay. We can fix it. See, we've got some pixels that did not want to capture, so we're going to come in here and make it less messy. I'll take away the line art so you can see where the holes are. So we can add those in, because we don't want those holes. Whenever you have holes like that, it can show up through the artwork and it makes it a pain to deal with. So we're going to neaten this up a little bit. Make sure there are no missing spots. There we go. Alright, I'm going to add the lines back in so I can clean up anything that I need to, because I don't want that to be selected. And I'm not worried about the stuff that's outside of the gray, because that won't show up at all anyway. Got a little hole there. But here we do want to clean it up because that's going outside the lines. Oops. Got some more holes here to clean up. There we go. Almost done. Oh, we're missing a spot there. And also there. I'm going to cover up all of those lines because we don't want any holes. Okay. Alright, now on this layer, which is not the line layer, it's its own little separate layer, we're going to use the bucket tool again. And I'm going to do red. Her hair is not actually red. I can't remember what color it is supposed to be. But when you're doing your flats, it's you don't have to use the exact color it's actually going to end up being, because you can change that later. But what you do want to make sure is that the color you use is significantly different in value than your base color. So I'm going to make this a nice obnoxious pink. There we go. Oops, we forgot a spot. That's okay. I can go back and fix that. But as you can see, the pink did not go outside the area of the gray, even though that's selected. And I'm going to deselect this. And just going to paint in the spot I forgot. And I see a spot here that I do not need to be filled in, so I'm going to erase that on the gray layer, because that's a spot you're going to see to the background. And that is basically how you do flatting. I'm going to have to add another line there to fill that back in, but that's later. Oh, you want to make sure that your lines did get all through, so I'm going to lift up the line layer to make sure everything's the way I want it to be. And neaten things back up again. But you just pretty much do the same thing for all the different elements, you know, so the cat would be on its own layer, the jewelry would be on its own layer, the clothing, the chain, and so you'd have like probably 5 or 6 layers or more depending upon how many different areas you wanted to color on. And you can either decide to, as long as you have your colors a different value, that's strong enough that you can use the select tool, like the magic wand, to click on it. Oops. Here, let me save this and I'll demonstrate a little bit better. Always remember to save often. So you'd want to keep the line layers again on its own. And we'll merge visible here. And depending upon what your setting is on your magic wand, like right now I have color difference to be fairly different for it to be able to select the differences. I can now easily select just the pink area or just the gray, and see it does not select the other areas I do not want it to. And you'd be able to do that with all of the different areas you had different colors in. But sometimes it's easier just to keep everything on its own layer to avoid mistakes. But I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Please let me know what you think in the new community tab or on the comments here on this video. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.